Hi, everybody. Welcome to the quarantine series. I'm your host, Kabir Sagal, coming to you live from the ATL. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. I want to thank everyone for watching around the world. And I want to thank my mom and dad who are up late watching downstairs. So hi to mom and dad for tuning in. So a quarantine series, you know by now what we're up to. It's all about shining the light on creative people, brilliant people of all types, musicians, filmmakers, authors. These are the people creating the stories that challenge and provoke and entertain us throughout the year. We love them more than ever these days, right? Because we're all stuck at home, streaming the content, listening to the music. So you know what to do. If you like, if you can, please check out the projects you learn about on this broadcast. In addition, try to support the local creative community, the local book festival, the local film festival. Let's do what we can to support the people, the creative folks, artists and audiences. We need each other during this time. All right, so a couple public service announcements. If you want to learn who will be on the show, to subscribe to my social media. It's pretty easy. We're pretty much available everywhere. Secondly, let us know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment in the comment box and let us know. We got Atlanta in the house. We got California in the house today. I always know I like learning about all the international places. So everyone, what's up in Malaysia? You're up early. It's nice to see you here in South Africa and Pretoria. We've been seeing all these great places people are watching from. And if you have a question, I don't have to ask all the questions. You can grill our artists today. Ask the piercing questions. Just drop a comment. No matter if you're watching now live or on the rebroadcast, just let us know what is on your mind. And we will be sure to opine to your questions and queries. All right, so now for the best part of the show, we're going to meet the incredible artist. And what I like about her, she's a hyphenated individual. We're going to have to rename the show the Quarantine Hyphenated series because like a lot of people are hyphenated, but she really embodies it. Some people embody the comma, she embodies the hyphen. So she is a filmmaker, musician, and painter, multi-talented. See what I mean? Films include Me to Child, which we'll talk about. We're also going to talk about The Piano Shaman, which stars her brother, who's very, very talented. Also, she's quite eclectic. She's an artist, released her album Rise, which is part of the Renaissance Electronic Project, and she's very well educated. So we only bring you the best and the most intelligent people on this broadcast. You have to have a master's degree to be on the show. Sorry, it's part of the deal. So please welcome to the show live from California, Radha Mehta. Welcome.
Hi, hey Kabir. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. First, got to ask you, how are you coping during this time of quarantine and pandemic, and how is it affecting some of your projects?
Yeah, so I'm based out in California, but my family is based out in Florida. So it's been very tough to not see my parents. I have two little ones, a 2 and a 4-year-old. So it's been very hard for my parents to not have that bonding time with our kids. But we did manage to go for about 2 months where we stayed out there, and it's been, make up for lost time. I think the one thing that this quarantine has taught me, especially, is that life is short, life is precious. And with that in mind, I mean, I've always been the type to always think of the future, like, okay, what is it that I want to accomplish, or what is it that I want to do? I got to start now. But now it's all about living in the moment, living in the present. And I just love spending time with my little family and just going out, as much as we can out to nature. And so, yeah, so it's just, you can't take any moment for granted. And I'm grateful that that's what the quarantine has helped me learn. It's been tough, though.
Yeah, we're grateful. And we're grateful for you. I want to ask you, as a creative person, how do you spend your typical day? Do you have structure to your day? I know you have a family and you talked about the walk. Is there a daily walk? Do you take vitamins every day? Do you eat eggs every morning? What is the ritual like over there? Do you meditate? What's the ritual like?
Yeah. So yes, I do meditate in the morning. So soon after, we do have a nanny that helps with our kids, because I do need some time away from them just to be able to do some of the things that I need to do. But I do try to meditate in the morning, maybe between, as short as 5 minutes to 15 minutes. I think that just kind of sets the tone for the day. And then I actually, one of the first things that I do, like when I get after, eating breakfast and everything, one of the first things that I do when I get to my desk is I try to learn something, like whether it be a master class whether it be from Sundance or, just from the Recording Academy or just anywhere, just in terms of musicians and other artists, auteurs. And I just try to learn just a little something that kind of sets the tone for the day. And then I do keep busy throughout the day, being productive in some shape or form. It is important that I try to create something creative every day, whether it be in the form of painting or working on my film, a vignette or a scene, or just something creative, because I think that I feel incomplete if I don't have something creative done throughout the day by the time 5 o'clock rolls around when my nanny's got to go home. So I do have certain structure, but it's very easy for an artist to just kind of like get in our heads a little bit, in the sense of like this emotional roller coaster where one moment we feel like we're on top of the world. The next moment we're like, what the heck are we doing? Like, what is the point of, whatever it is that we're doing? So it's just by having some structure and like just keeping busy with a to-do list that I keep on a whiteboard. I think that that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
So that's my sense of structure.
Well, I got to tell you, what you're saying right now is checking the box for our audience in terms of learning something new every day. They're learning from you. So what's on the to-do list, by the way?
So I have 3 active projects going on, which we'll probably get into, but they're all in 3 different mediums. So one is a documentary, a feature documentary. And then I have a painting series that will have its debut in San Francisco in a very wonderful place in February. And then I have a music album that I'm just kind of working with in terms of like composing for some other film projects. So it's just various little things here and there. I think one of the things for my feature documentary would be just kind of like finish transcribing a certain interview and then cut like key moments for that. So I try to break it down into granular things, because if I keep it too high level, then I get lost in the sense of like, okay, I actually didn't end up doing anything for that specific day for that project. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about the documentary, Me Too Child.
Yes.
What is the film about? Why did you want to make it? And what's the current phase that it's in?
Sure. Yeah, so Me Too Child is just a working title. It's a featured documentary about the passing of Donna's Law, which as of July 1st of 2020, all statutes of limitations have been eliminated for any minors who have been sexually abused. So up until then, any minors who have been sexually abused, they had a very set amount of time in terms of when they were supposed to report it, in terms of having been abused. And unfortunately, when minors are often abused by their very caretakers, there's a sense of fear and paralysis that surrounds that, in terms of them not being able to ever say anything or ever come forward. Delayed disclosure is a common phenomenon. So we're in production at the moment. I've conducted several interviews. So now it's just in the phase of like storyboarding the specific interviews and how we can get a rough cut of the story. There's definitely a lot more filming that needs to take place. Because I'm an artist, I actually want to incorporate a lot of my artistic background or artistic elements into this film when it comes to any type of reenactment. So then that way it's just not talking head interviews. I want to be able to incorporate, whether it be dance or whether it be, visual, like mental fog type images, but just it's gonna be on the verge of somewhat experimental type of documentary. So it's a feature, but there's potential that it could be part of a series, because there's a few other laws that are actually in place in my home state of Florida, that's where I've been raised. There's a few other laws that are probably going to kick in for 2021, so I'm following them around as well with an activist and an advocate for domestic violence that I have known for several years, that I'll be working closely with. So so our hope is that we wrap this specific project by fall of 2021.
It's quite a sensitive topic. How do you build, I guess, trust and with the, I don't know if they're called subjects, but participants of the film?
Yeah. So I got connected with a lot of these, with all these participants for this specific law through an activist that I had been friends with for a very long time, probably over a decade. I had actually volunteered for a shelter called Harbor House in Central Florida. I would actually sing concerts there during Christmas, and then we also held certain fundraisers for them to be able to raise money for that shelter of domestically abused victims. And I just have a special connection with the victims that have been in that specific shelter. And then just my, my love and just my empathy for them has just grown through the years, because I I can't imagine what they, the trauma that they go through, and especially their children. Now that I'm a mother, the children go through. And when I learned about the minor sexual abuse, in the sense of that they only have a set amount of time to actually report it, and there's still at least 7 states out there that still have statute of limitations for minor sexual abuse, it crushes me. It crushes me. And I feel like this is going to be, my hope is that this could be a case study for the other states to take action. And what was so powerful about these interviews and these specific participants that I've become very close with is their testimonies is what made this law change. If they weren't brave enough to come from hearing to, hearing after hearing on the Congress, to the Congress and to the Senate, this law, like the potential of this law changing to eliminating all statute of limitations would never have seen light of day. So that's my hope, is that this could inspire many other victims of abuse to actually come forward and find a way to enact a similar law in their respective states.
Got it. And talk a little bit, Radha, about the creative team. Put your producer hat on. Who's on the creative team? Who are you working with? And how are you getting the best out of everyone?
Yeah, so the key person that I'm closely working with her name is Carol Wick, and she is just a fierce domestic violence advocate, and she actually has her own column in the Orlando Sentinel, which is our home paper. I have, my brother is a producer as well on board, and I'm still securing most key members of the team. There's been a lot of interest, from some networks that I can't quite disclose, but it's just too early to say, just because there's so much work that I have to do on the project itself, that I don't feel comfortable to share too much about, in terms of like the actual footage yet, until I feel like there's a clear storyline. But my hope is that I do get some support from specific grants, whether it be, I'm trying to aim for some of the best out there, but Sundance and, just some of the very competitive grants, to see if they see any interest in something like this, and to actually just walk me through like what the best way to share the story, because I have a lot of artistic ideas in my mind in terms of certain reenactments. And that's the point, that's where it gets a little tricky, is when you're talking about, when you hear these testimonies, it is brutal. It is absolutely just heart-wrenching. And to reenact such a thing, it can be incredibly triggering. And I have to be sensitive to that. So there's a very fine line. But to do it from an artistic perspective that makes an impact, where it's engaging. And the problem is, if you go heavy after heavy after heavy, you lose an audience just like that. So my point is that there needs to be some lightness to it as well. And to make it engaging for all audiences that watch it. And I don't want to lose them, because I really want it to be as impactful as possible. So I'm going to need all the help I can get. So if you're a producer out there, or executive producer out there that's interested in the idea, please hit me up, because I'm still forming my team. I'm going to need all the help I can get.
Awesome. And talk a little bit about the edit. So how is the story? You have a story kind of going into it, the arc, but sometimes in the edit, the story kind of changes. So
it does, yeah.
Are you, especially in documentary where it's sort of made in the edit, so how is that process working for you?
Yeah, it is interesting, because the story is pretty clear. To this, in terms of like the start, middle, and end is still rather clear, but there's so many layers. Like, I'll just tell you, like one of the key things that was quite interesting and ironic for this story is that the 2 main participants who helped really start this whole, the change in law, the person that they had been abused by was fully aware of what was happening and had been confronted about it, and was even asked if he could voluntarily put himself onto the pedophile list, and he denied it. And he says, "No, don't do it. I'll do anything to keep you guys quiet," in a way. And they said, "Well, forget that. We're just going to keep moving forward with our mission then." But what's crazy is just the day before the law got signed by the governor, like into law, he had died. And I asked the participants in the interview, like two very different responses. One was, what was your reaction? Like, I mean, from my perspective, I'm like, oh my God, justice didn't get served to that specific individual. But they said, it was a very tough week, because we were happy that finally this law had changed. But then it was like, maybe, God has his way. God has his way in terms of the way things were meant to be. and I'm now at peace with it. That was one reaction. And the other reaction is just like, oh, I was angry. Like, why didn't he see it through? But then, I had to come to terms with it, and eventually, finally had to and just take in that, this was meant for something. It's actually to protect the future children from getting abused this way.
Got it. Who is the Piano Shaman? And tell us about this project.
Yeah. So Piano Shaman is my brother. And it's so funny because I was trying to figure out what the best title was. And I was like, this is just what makes sense. And he's like, it actually sticks, like that's what people call him. And I was like, okay. But so my brother is a self-taught pianist, and he recently had his debut in Carnegie Hall in 2019. And apparently it was the first sound bath ever in the history of Carnegie Hall, and it was really well received. But he actually was suffering from Lyme disease years ago, and he's always known as a true, the strongest in our family, the true visionary of our family. And so when he was going through Lyme disease, we didn't know if he would make it. It was probably the worst years of our family's lives. He had lost 40 pounds within a month. He was hospitalized, and it was just terrible. And he didn't know how to handle it. The doctors didn't know. They figured that psychiatric drugs would be the best way to treat something like this, which wasn't the case. So he did a lot of treatment on his own, just like homeopathic type stuff. But the one thing he always came to is music. Whenever he touched root with the thing that he loved the most, which was playing the piano, he just felt like a sense of calm, a sense of healing. Yep, that's my brother. But he felt a sense of calm and a sense of healing. And so he did that for hours on end, day after day. And of course, he got better at his own playing, but the fact that it was just very healing to him, he thought, why not actually see if other people can benefit from something like this? So he created a thing called Flow. One was a Flow show, which was a big performance that involved aerial artists around his piano concert. But then he went inwards and actually held sound baths at places like Grace Cathedral, where 600 folks would show up, and they would all just lay down on their mats all around him, and just he would just improvise for an hour, and it was just they would bliss out. And he just received so much feedback, and he actually would share confidentially with me some of the emails that he got from some of the folks that participated in some of these sound baths. He's held several through the years. And I'm just blown away. I'm blown away. One person said, my son is autistic. We have a hard time with getting him to concentrate, to focus. I took him to the sound bath just out of a chance to see if that could change anything. And somehow my son has developed this love for playing instruments, specifically the piano. And somehow that actually keeps him rather focused. And, it helps with some of his abilities to communicate socially. It's just he has so many emails. And of course I asked if I could share it. He says, no, these are confidential. I want to make sure I do right by them, because these seem like very personal stories. But at least when he shares it with me, I'm just in tears. So yeah, that's kind of with the film. There's just a happy ending to that he's recovered mostly from Lyme, and he's hoping that perhaps he could actually use that as music as a form of medicine that you can prescribe. That's his hope.
Well, I'm so glad he's doing better. And we can also see some of these projects in your portfolio on your website. I think we have a screenshot of your website. So I want everyone to go to radhamehta.com so we can see her incredible portfolio of projects and films. You can also see about the Piano Shaman. And you're also, I think we have some, there it is right there. There's the website.
Yeah.
You've painted these, you're a painter as well.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about your aesthetic and your painting aesthetic.
So Kabir, you and I, we've been in the music industry for over a decade, and been very grateful to do that. When I had my son in 2016, that just shocked me in the sense of I didn't know what I was doing, but I lost a specific sense of independence, where I could basically go into a music studio anytime I wanted and just jam for hours on end. So when I had my son, I had to turn to something a little bit quieter, during his nap time. And that's when I turned to painting. And I just fell in love with it, because I used to draw a lot when I was in, in elementary, middle school, and high school. And I even had A's in all my drawing classes and stuff. And I was like, let me just see what that's about. And it's a very introspective type of outlet in a way. So I got into painting, and watercolor seemed to be the least toxic, because I love toxic paints like spray paint and resin and things like that. And I've had my fair share with that. But I turned to watercolor, and I don't know, it's just been a game changer for me in terms of like being able to switch around. Like, okay, if I'm, if I've hit a roadblock on filmmaking or like editing or something, I just need an absolute, like just a break, then I can easily switch to painting and still be able to do something visual and feel like creatively productive. So, for an example, the image that you see here, it's part of my I Am Love series, and it's about women empowerment through the love language of affirmations. And what it is, for myself, I know that when I tell myself I'm strong, I'm enough, I'm worthy, I am loved, like things like that, I feel a sense of empowerment. And I know many of my friends feel the same when I tell the same to them, and, truthfully so. And so I created like a set of paintings, and it's been exhibited in downtown Orlando, and now it's in Bloomingdale's out there until February. And then this is a montage of Say Her Name. So hashtag Say Her Name. So this is actually part of my larger series called Say Their Names. And this was in response to, of course, the BLM movement and the death of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery. And I first started with just those 3 paintings, and it was just more as a sense to learn about who they were from the eyes, from the words and of their family, their loved ones, and not so much from the media. And I just wanted to kind of just pay them a tribute in the sense of like just to honor them with a moment of silence with my paintings. And then since then, I've gone on to make 50 paintings, different portraits, just as a way to learn. And so now that series will debut in San Francisco, which I'm excited about. So this one is Cuba the Beautiful. I had the chance to go to Cuba in January, just before the pandemic hit, so I'm very grateful for that. And I was just blown away by its rich culture, and the people there are just truly beautiful inside out, and so generous and loving and welcoming. And I just feel like a lot of people don't know that side of Cuba. And so I created this, and I did like a huge, like an interactive lookbook and a set of 8 films that kind of showcase their culture. So I was really honored to do that with the organization that I went with. And I hope that once the pandemic subsides, that, a lot more people do visit Cuba. I mean, their whole livelihood depends on tourism. So I just hope that more people, of course, can travel in general, but definitely visit Cuba. It's not far. It's just like, at least for, my home state of Florida, it's just like literally just a couple hour flight. So not a big deal, but it's a beautiful place to go.
Totally. Sure. Well, I love the art. You're doing beautiful, radiant, magnificent things in your life. Keep enriching the world with your creativity. Thank you so much for being on the show, Radha.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kabir.
All right. That's our show today. If you want to learn who will be on, subscribe to my social media. Take care of yourself. The art will take care of you. Bye, everyone.